We went through what I call the three rings. I have three rings here as to how God, where Jesus says that he would count us worthy. And it was an interesting thing because the first group that I mentioned was this group here. And he says, unless you love me more than you love these others, you're really not worthy of me. So when I got to thinking about that, I think of how many people who in families don't really like each other. Then there's a family here. This family, they love each other. But they're not here. And so in order for Christ to manifest himself, he says, you must love me more than any of these. And as I reflect on that, when I look at this group, what is so astounding is there's so many in families that don't like each other. Just think about that. When he said, you have to love these more than me, and we look at all the families that are getting a divorce and so on and so forth, and somewhere along the line, you can't tell me that people who can't love who they can see can't love who they can't see. So that puts me immediately in trouble. Then when it says in John chapter 14, verse 21, Jesus said, I will manifest myself to you, and the Father and I will come and we'll make our abode with you and we'll manifest ourselves in you. In order for him to manifest himself in me, I have to have, he says, if you love me, the only thing he says attached to that, he says, if you love me, he says, just do what I tell you. So, for example, for Christ to manifest, to make me worthy, for me to be worthy before Christ, I have to love him, number one. Now, I took my own heart, and that led me to something else. But in order to be worthy, in order for him to manifest himself through me, then we went to another level. We happened to be discussing this. John, you were there. We brought up the subject of the heart. Now, what we want to do, we have a desire in our church to see somebody go from where they are to where God would like them to be. That all sounds well and good. But if I begin to take the analysis, in fact, Tim and I talked about it. I said, Tim, let me ask you a question Wednesday morning. I said, do you love Christ more than Danita? And it was kind of like letting some air out. However, it drives you back into the perspective of where it has to go, and I hope I'm getting to a point. Then the next thing that had to happen, in order for me to get somebody from here to here, it says in 139 Psalm, nobody can teach you how to get from here to here. Now, if I went back to my circles, it says, first of all, starting up here, you must have a searchable heart. Search me and try me and see if there be any wicked way. I can't tell you all the problems you have, and because none of us are honest in our self-appraisal, you can't either. So I have to take the Lord, myself before the Lord for this searchable heart. When I move from the searchable heart, I now have to have a trusting heart. Now, a trusting heart, if we ask everybody this morning in the church how many trust the Lord, you think every hand will go up probably? Let's see. However, when I get to the trusting heart, it's a heart that has been dealt with unbelief. You see. It isn't a matter of whether I trust events or so. When I get down here, the third one has to be a broken heart. Now, the broken heart isn't a heart that grieves over the loss of a loved one. The broken heart is a heart that has had all the walls, fortresses, and entrenchments destroyed. If I don't go here, I can't get here. So I can't get you on this course until you would really follow this process. And so I get down here, see if all the strongholds are broken. And all of us have strongholds. Now, one of the evidence of that is, if there's tension that you experience in your home with family members, if there's anger and there's resentment, if there is fear, you're not here, you see. Those are all warnings and evidences that you've got to get back in this process, because all of these things are causing an interesting phenomena, and you can find it in 2 Timothy chapter 2.
Fred,
Go ahead.
aren't there degrees
Of what?
of a searchable heart, a trusting heart, and a broken heart?
Absolutely.
Can I make a comment on that?
Yeah, but it's rather
Sure,
than
go ahead.
one excluding the other,
I heard
Go
a
ahead.
message a number of years ago, and I guess it would kind of fall in line with the broken heart. It was about the parable of the soils, because you go through, you know, the sower was scattering seed, and the seed fell on rocky ground and good soil and just different conditions. And he was using that application of the heart, and how different elements that we have and how we approach are from our heart standpoint, like you were talking about. Are there different degrees? Absolutely. And I thought it made a lot of sense in his message. These certain things, we talked about healing a number of months ago, and everybody, that caused some, everybody had some different ideas about that. And again, how our heart attitude is going to be how God can work through that.
Yeah.
So it could be stony ground. So if in that particular instance, if your heart is really cold to that, that's stony ground. God's not going to be able to do anything in that element until that happens.
Well, for example, we all have to realize that what we've been doing, we've been covering this for 5 weeks. And so there's a lot of background. What I'm doing is doing a little review because there are degrees. For example, I'll give you an example of that. I went to Rotary about a month and a half ago. Guy tapped me on the shoulder as I'm getting ready to leave. He said, I was in the internet, I saw your webpage, and I frankly saw my tract and read it. He's from Venezuela, he's an architect. So I said after that, I went into an explanation of how it wasn't religion, we went through the drill, and I said, could you do that? He said, yes, I could do that. Then I sent him, because he prayed, I sent a little note, and I sent him a little book, Now That I Believe. Thursday I had lunch with him. Now it's the first time I'm sitting down with him, where we're not just passing each other, how you doing? I'm going to listen to the guy's heart. Now he begins to tell me some background of what is getting his attention on this, because his brother's in Venezuela, he's an engineer, and he's dying of cancer. Ooh. Now it begins to give me a perspective. Now I can't get with him on this matter of a broken heart and strongholds. He's having a broken heart over the loss of his brother. However, because his heart is soft, I can begin to talk with him and begin to bring him an exploration of things he's never even considered. But I'm listening to that guy's heart now. It's giving me some insights as to how I can pray for that guy and have a relationship with him. Gave him a second book. See, now I begin to ask him about evidences, and he begins to let me know that his appetite is being whetted. I spent a session on this, I'm sure you remember, how as we move through this process, God today, because if we're going to have great tribulation, is going to need great comforters.